Well, Delegate-elect Kacey Carnegie, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Can you introduce yourself, please, and the district you'll soon be representing?
I am a local attorney. I do anything and everything that has to do with the states, estate administration, estate planning, estate litigation. More importantly, I'm a mom. I have two young daughters, Elsie and Piper, who go to local public schools right here in Chesapeake. Married to my husband Adam for 17 years, and he is actually from the Suffolk portion of the 89th District. I was born and raised in the Chesapeake portion of the 89th District, and so together we make one big 89th team. And so it's my home and it's the community I care about. And so when I decided to run, it was with that in mind, because I wanted to make sure that everybody in this community, both in Chesapeake and Suffolk, had a voice in Richmond.
Can you talk about what you learned during your campaign from voters and how you anticipate to translate that once you get into office?
Throughout the campaign trail, we knocked a lot of doors, we made a lot of phone calls, and the kind of common themes I was hearing was people are scared. We have a lot of federal workers in this district because we're next to Norfolk, and so when people come here as part of the military, they stay and retire and start to work for the federal government. And so they're scared with what's happening on the federal level. Also education, we have amazing schools here in Chesapeake and in Suffolk, but because of that we have some overcrowding, and so people are concerned about that. I want to make sure that that's fixed. I think aside from the issues that we want to address, the biggest thing I heard was trust. People want legislators they can trust. They don't care if they're Republican, they don't care if they're Democrat, they want someone who's going to listen to them and do something about it. And so while I was walking, and knocking doors, a lot of people I ran into would recognize me because they knew one of my siblings, or my dad had done their taxes, or I had represented them in some capacity. And so in getting to talk with them, they said, we know we can trust you. We know you. We don't care what party you are. We know that you're going to listen and get things done in Richmond.
And you campaigned on building a community-first economy. Can you talk about what exactly that means and how you expect to accomplish that?
Sure. So a community-first economy is an economy that works for everybody. It's lowering the price of health care. It's making sure that groceries are affordable. It's making sure that child care is affordable. The first year that both my daughters were in full-time child care, my 1099 from the daycare was $21,000. That's not right, and people shouldn't have to choose between whether or not they're going to go to work or have someone provide care for their children. And so it's making sure we're implementing legislation that protects those things, that caps the price of health insurance, that make sure that we're protecting Medicaid from the cuts that are happening on the federal level. That's reducing or eliminating the grocery tax, that's reducing or eliminating the car tax, that's making life more affordable in general, along with making sure that all of our children are getting a first-class education regardless of where they live, and they're not, the teachers have what they need and are not being forced to teach in classrooms that are overcrowded.
Can you talk about, I guess, just your first bills or your first kind of proposals that you're thinking about?
Sure. So I'm a probate attorney, so I'm probably the only delegate that's like, oh, let me get into code section 64.2 and shake it up. But I do have, some code sections within our probate code that need to be tweaked. But really, legislation that focuses on raising the minimum wage, on making sure that health insurance is affordable, making sure that child care is affordable by providing stipends and tax credits, and making sure that our grocery tax is reduced or eliminated. But some of my legislation we're looking at right now is really just focused on making sure that Virginia is just more affordable for everyone.
I'm interested to know, though, also, obviously coming with this big majority in the House, you'll be able to get anything you want through Democrats, but with such a House majority, how do you expect to get things done moving forward?
I will absolutely. I think most issues are bipartisan issues, and that we're all more alike than we think. And so reaching across the aisle to get support from the other side is absolutely something I'm going to do. It's kind of like being in the courtroom where you battle it out and then afterward you go out and have a bite to eat. And I definitely plan on doing that. But it's just a matter of working together for what's best for your district. I mean, Jay Leftwich and I, he's in the next district over, he's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. All of our constituents go to the same Starbucks. And so it's a matter of us working together to make sure we're doing a good job for individuals in our communities.
And a lot of attention has been built on data centers. I'm wondering, is that something that you're following or an issue that's going on in the district? And also, what are your views on wrangling, I guess, the ability of companies to open up so many?
With the introduction of data centers, I think they are coming. I think there's something we're going to have to deal with. And we have to make sure that legislation is put in place to make it so that they are paying the electricity they produce or need, not produce, but the electricity they consume. Because right now what's happening is they're consuming so much electricity, those rates are going up for everyone. And that's not fair for individuals who are not consuming that electricity. And so putting legislation in place that, one, reduces the rates for everyone else and makes them pay their fair share, make sure that they're being put in places that are not going to negatively affect the environment, people's quality of life, the emittance that are put into the air, making sure that we're protecting all of that so that they can do what they need to do, but our constituents are safe at the same time, and our constituents aren't forced to pay more for electricity because these data centers have come into their area.
There's been obviously conversations about the amount of money the state has, and obviously talking about federal funding concerns and the ability to need to cover Medicaid costs. I'm wondering how you're going to have these conversations with your voters, people in your district, about maybe there's just not enough money in the budget for certain things. How are you going to kind of navigate those conversations?
Yeah, so it's all about looking at the budget, and this year is going to be one of the toughest budget years that there's ever been. We have a lot of items that were previously covered by the federal government that we're going to have to look into our pockets and figure out where it's going to come from. And unfortunately, while we do have a huge rainy day fund, there's limits on when that can be accessed. And so it's all about priorities and making sure that we're prioritizing health care, child care, everyday affordability for our constituents. And if that means there's cuts in other places, then we're going to have to do that. But really talking to my constituents about their priorities and how that's reflected in the budget.
What are your priorities for your first term? And when you look back at the end of it, what do you hope to have accomplished?
My priorities are passing good legislation for my district, making sure that life's more affordable through healthcare, childcare, reducing the grocery tax or eliminating it, reducing or eliminating that personal property tax, making sure that that all of our kids are getting a first-class education. If I can look back and be pleased with the fact that I have listened to my constituents, that I've passed good legislation for them, and that I've made the 89th district a better place, I will be satisfied with my first term.
Thank you, Delegate-elect Carnegie. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks for coming down and spending a few minutes with me this morning.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the VPM YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and visit vpm.org for more in-depth coverage.